Welcome back. You're still tuned into the Power Station Energy 100 with myself, Elsabe Timingani, as your hostess. And of course, Econo Chat, Let's Talk Business with Mr. Daniel Steinman. Today we are talking about inflation and how it affects us on a daily basis. How inflation really affects our pockets, and like Mr. Daniel Steinman said, that our pockets or our purses are becoming thinner by the day. And on that one, cost of living and inflation, people would probably think that it doesn't come or work together or play a role, but Mr. Daniel Steinman, cost of living is affected by inflation.
Very, very important, Elsabe. You're touching there on a raw nerve. And you know, if somebody is rich now, first of all, I need to point out that the definition of who's rich and who is not rich is really academic. You know, it's very subjective. So economists never talk about who's rich and who's poor. They talk about who has enough income to live comfortably, or who lives on the breadline, you know, just whatever comes in goes out, and who is the poor part is that part of the population living below the poverty line. You know, so you get these three very broad categories that the population is viewed through the lens of an economist. So if you are in the very upper income bracket, first of all, we need to be realistic. We're talking about 1% of the population. And those with a sufficient income, we're talking about probably 5, 6, 7% of the population. So what you can see immediately is that the vast majority is either in the middle bracket, you know, basically neutral, income neutral, what they get in goes out. So it implies that they cannot save. Their income is consumed every month, and a very, very large part of the population is also below the poverty line, meaning that financially the household is continuously stressed. There's never enough money to send the children to school. There's not enough money for groceries, for food, and it is always what we call a rap and scrap, a Zula means $13 to pay for the taxi. Now, this, you and I make a joke about it, and I'm sure there's a little bit of humor in it, but it is not funny. If you are a UNAM student and you need 13 poopy dollars to get to the campus in Kommersdal, and your household, your family cannot give you and your siblings that $13, cannot provide to get to that institution where you study. Because now it starts impacting your education.
It does.
You see, now it becomes real. Now it's no longer just an academic exercise, nice figures on paper and clever people drawing graphs. Now it's very much a grassroots issue. And this is the reality of Namibia. This is what I think our policymakers fail to understand. And they're looking at all sorts of subsidies and concessions and grants for old age people and disability grants and. What I see, what is not being done, is that policy is not addressing that point where inflation originates. And I can tell you, I think I've said this in previous talks that we had, inflation in Namibia is an imported thing. And the reason is we produce, let's say, 15% of what we need, 16% ourselves. 84% is imported, and the vast majority of that comes from South Africa. So everything that you load on a truck in Cape Town, you have to pay for 1,600 kilometers worth of diesel to get it to Windhoek. So in transport is one of the biggest originators of inflation in our country because of the high import bill.
Yeah.
And you also see it in the statistics on trade, stuff coming in,
Yeah.
and the current account deficit and that sort of thing. It is not that easy to curb or prevent inflation. It is not possible
Yeah.
to prevent inflation, but it is possible to lessen the impact of inflation. One of them is through the interest rate, but I want to put that one on the side for another discussion on another day.
Okay.
In about 2 months from now, when we see what the direction is the Bank of Namibia is taking long term with interest rates.
Yeah.
In the short term, if you really want to help the people most affected by inflation, you have to come up with a scheme where you subsidize transport in a certain way. And one of the easiest ways is to get rid of a part, at least, of all the levies and taxes built into the fuel price.
Yep.
You know that $21 that you pay for a liter of diesel or petrol, only about $3.70 is for the actual fuel. $17 is taxes in various forms. So that ratio shows you that the government has got a lot of power to reduce the price of fuel
They
by
do.
cutting down on that bouquet of taxes that is built into the fuel price.
Mr. Daniel Steinman, you said it, that the government has a lot of power to do certain things, and I personally really believe that as a Namibian citizen that I do not have to suffer in this country. But of course, I will not put you on the spot on that one, Mr. Daniel Steinman. Let's quickly go for a short break, and then once we come back, we will continue talking about rates and taxes and still talk how inflation does affect us on a daily basis.